Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory Srila Prabhupada. I hope you all are well. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory Srila Prabhupada. So nice to see you laughing, Guru Maharaj. After a long time, I'm seeing you taking a darshan. Thank you, Jay. Do you want to share before I start sharing screen? Do you want to share why you were laughing? You must be laughing at me, I'm sure.
Continue.
Thank you. Nice. So today's verse is first canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 18th chapter and 4th verse. And chapter is Parishad Maharaj cursed by the Brahman boy. Is that correct, Guru Maharaj, if I start sharing the screen? Thank you. Oops. Sorry.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I think we did this one yesterday, didn't we?
Yesterday was 118.3, Guru Maharaj. Let me, do you want to read this?
Yes, 183 was done yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay. Notamasloka Vartanam Jusatam Tat Katamritam Shat Sambrahmanta Kalepi Smaratam Tabudam Bujam. Translation: this was so because those who have dedicated their lives to the transcendental topics of the personality of Godhead, of whom the Vedic hymns sing, and who are constantly engaged in remembering the lotus feet of the Lord, do not run the risk of having misconceptions even at the last moment of their lives. The highest perfection of life is attained by remembering the transcendental natures of the Lord at the last moment of one's life. This perfection of life is made possible by one who has learned the actual transcendental nature of the Lord from the Vedic hymns sung by liberated souls like Sukadeva Goswami, or someone in the line of the civic succession. There is no gain in hearing the Vedic hymns from some mental speculator. When the same is heard from the actual self-realized soul, is properly understood by service and submission, everything becomes transcendentally clear. Thus, a submissive disciple is able to live transcendently and continue to the end of the life. By scientific adaptation, one is able to remember the Lord even at the end of life. When the power of remembrance is slackened due to derangement of bodily membranes. For a common man, it is very difficult to remember things as they are at the time of death, but with the grace of the Lord and his bona fide devotees, the spiritual masters, one can get this opportunity, and it was done in this case of Maharaj Parikshit. Agyan timidandasya gyananjana salakaya chaksu unmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavari Pastyatya De Satarine Vanchakalpa Tarubhischa Kripa Sindhuve Bhacha Titanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaho Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So life is not meant for enjoying the senses. The senses are given to us so we can function in this material world. Or the focus of sense gratification is not the goal of life. The goal of life is to prepare for one's next life. And that means living according to the teachings of the spiritual masters, the revealed scriptures, Krishna, and the previous acharyas. Life is meant for self-realization. Tato Brahma Jigyasa Srimad Bhagavatam begins by saying, now in this human life, form of life, inquire into the purpose of life. What is the purpose of life? And Bhagavatam gives the answer. Ante Narayanam Smriti means to remember Krishna at the end of life. One cannot remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead at the end of life unless one is serving the Lord throughout their life and is engaged under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master. Well, the process is sound and it develops a consciousness. Here it says the Vedic hymns mentions, sung by liberated souls, like the Srimad Bhagavatam, in that sense, would be classified in that way, and Sukadev Goswami is the speaker. Not like hearing any Vedic knowledge coming from any source. Has to be that source and that knowledge which will take one's consciousness to the lotus feet of the Lord in devotion. And by hearing, it says here, one should develop a submissive and service attitude. When he said, when that is heard by a realized soul and is understood through service and submission to the instructions of the spiritual master and the Lord, everything becomes transparently clear. We don't have to do anything much. That's why requirements for success in spiritual life is sincerity. One should want the goal and one should do whatever is required to achieve the goal. That's all. Material energy will try to divert our attention away from these things, but through strong hearing of the Vedic literatures, the Vedic hymns, from the self-realized soul, from Krishna himself, and from the scriptures, will give one the clear understanding how to plow oneself through all of the, what we might say, the distractions that come by way of material energy, which are numerous. I was just reading one discussion between Srila Prabhupada and one of his senior female disciples. And she was saying that, Prabhupada, I want to go to this, she names this one place in India. They were in India already. She said, I want to go away to this ashram started by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which is a female ashram. The reason why is that I can't take it here. I'm being criticized all the time. And Prabhupada said, you should understand that being in the material world, there is a lot of ups and downs, waves, challenges, things that we have to accept and learn to tolerate. And especially when you come to Krishna consciousness, it's not going to be smooth sailing. Smooth sailing comes when you go back to Godhead. Here, there is a struggle to keep one's mind focused on the lotus feet of the Lord through hearing from the self-realized soul. And the essence of that hearing is to glorify the Lord, which is the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam, spoken by Sukadeva Goswami. So one who hears the message of Bhagavatam regularly, daily, Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttima Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki, by regular attendance on the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam, and by service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart is automatically destroyed, practically destroyed, almost down to nothing. And a realization of the self of the Supreme Lord becomes a concomitant factor. So we have to hear from the scriptures every day. We also have to inquire into the topics that we hear to get a clarification and to get an understanding on how they apply to us personally in our practical day life in Krishna consciousness. By doing that, everything becomes clear. That's why it says service and submission, not just service. The submission really means to inquire into how I can further make advancement in the process of devotional service. How can I properly understand what I have been given? How can I properly apply that knowledge in day-to-day life? The principles of the application is the second part, and which is the most important part. And therefore, one has to regularly hear and get clarification and learn how to apply that knowledge in life. It's not simply good enough just to hear and go away and said, well, I heard, that's it. No, one has to take that knowledge and apply it. And that application awakens that knowledge gradually, and one comes to the point of realization. When realization comes, then the knowledge becomes easily understood and naturally practiced. And the essence of all teachings, as is given by the acharyas, is to always remember Krishna. Always remember Krishna. And if we practice remembering Krishna throughout our life, through chanting the holy name, through hearing about him from various scriptures, through discussing the activities of the Lord with other sincere devotees, then that memory becomes fixed. And then as we continue on in that same way, then when it comes to the time of leaving this body, to remember Krishna becomes natural. It becomes more or less routine. Whereas those who don't, who mechanically go through the process of service, then when it comes time for leaving the body, it becomes difficult to remember Krishna. And so life is a preparation for death, and death takes you to your next destination. And the next destination should be the Taktva Deham Purna Janmani, 90 Mam 80 Sorjun, should be back home, back to Godhead. Or at least to the position where in my next life I can associate with Krishna in one of the planets in the material world. At least one should come to the point of moving forward towards the ultimate goal of life. That's the minimum. But if we practice Krishna consciousness regularly, And seriously, then seriously means to be very conscious and very cautious. Cautious means to be careful not to fall into the traps that Maya may offer, such as wasting time with mundane and material things, trying for material things that have no relationship to one's life in terms of the need, talking nonsensically about subject matters that are not related to spiritual life or the practice of spiritual life. So all of these, you know. So as we came across the verse directly and indirectly, that was 2 days ago, we pursued that one verse, what is direct and what is indirect. Indirect means to avoid what is not Krishna conscious, and direct means to accept what it is. So it requires some endeavor, some intelligence, because it's the greatest achievement and one can, just like if you're going for, a very important position in the world, say you're going to apply for a position and to be nominated as a representative of parliament or something. You have to have some understanding. You have to have some knowledge. You have to have some determination, and you have to act on that. The spiritual life is like that. It's not routine. It's not simply something that just flows along. You have to make a conscious endeavor to make it work. It does work, but your consciousness is what and will bring about the results of the activities you perform. So the essence here says here, remembering the lotus feet of the Lord, or remembering Krishna in one form or another in devotional service. As we practice Krishna consciousness by hearing and chanting regularly and associating with devotees who are also performing the same activities, going to holy places, purifying ourselves in these holy places, then the process of Krishna consciousness becomes more or less part of me. It's not something that I have to somehow or other try to find. I'm revealing who I really am, a pure spiritual. And on a spiritual level, the soul can never forget Krishna, even for a fraction of a second, because that's the nature of the soul's consciousness. It always remembers Krishna. It can't stop remembering Krishna. In some way, it's connected to Krishna always. And so to come to that stage requires regular, determined effort, enthusiastic attention to one's activities in devotional service. And so here, and of course, the time of death is the final test. It's called the final exam. Yeah, when you go to college or school, you go to a classroom and you go to the lessons, you hear the talks, you do the homework, you participate in the subject matters in different ways, and then it all prepares you for the final exam. So death is the final exam. Are we gonna be ready or not? So the time to get ready is the time of the span of life. And it's not a matter of waiting to the last minute, just like some people, they think, well, yeah, the final exam is coming up, and therefore, I'll just go out and party for a while, and then the last night before the exam, I'll just cram all of my information in. No, you can't do that with Krishna consciousness. Krishna sees how sincere you are, and that sincerity is shown by your practice of devotional service throughout your life. And one has to develop this attachment to hear, because hearing is actually the foundation by which all of the other 8 forms of bhakti develop. When we hear, we chant. When we hear, we remember. When we hear, we serve. When we hear, we worship. When we hear, we surrender. Everything depends on hearing. Srimbata Swakata Krishna, Purnya Shravana Kirtanaha, Ridyanto Sto Abhidrani, Vidyanoti Suhit Satam. This hearing process, when Krishna sees a devotee is really serious about hearing about him, he actually jumps into the program personally, and he starts clearing away all of your obstacles. So you can continue making progress in the hearing process. Well, this pleases Krishna. And Prabhupada says, not too many people are interested in Krishna. Very few are. And if they're interested in Krishna, they approach Krishna for some material benefit. And that's the common factor within the religious world, that people will go to God to improve their material life. Or when they have some crisis in life, they run to God for some relief. But that's not the position of the Lord. Krishna remains above all of that. And he doesn't even deal with that. He sends Vishnu to deal with that one. Krishna is there to bring you to loving transcendental service as he appears in his transcendental form as Krishna, playing on the flute, standing in threefold bending form. It's nicely decorated along with his internal energy, the personification of Bhakti, Srimati Radharani alongside. That is the goal of this Krishna consciousness movement, not just a better material position in the next life in some heavenly planet. And Prabhupada also cautioned us. He said, if we don't stay fixed in Krishna consciousness, we'll probably achieve simply the heavenly planets at best, if at all, or some kind of desire, some kind of body in the material world again, somewhere throughout the 3 levels of existence. So that is not the goal. The goal is to get out. If you're in jail, you don't think, well, can I get a better jail cell? Can I somehow get a position in the jail? No, you think, let me get out of this place. This is the way out. The way out is through bhakti. Bhakti is the means by which the soul exists. Bhakti is the element that actually makes up the soul's perfect constitution. Bhakti is the soul's existence. Nitya Siddha, Krishna Prema, Sadhu Kabulnoi, Sravanari Siddhi Chitte, Koriye Udoi, that in the heart, or the soul, which is referred to, exists pure love for Krishna. It's there. So it's a hidden treasure. It's called Gupta. Gupta means it's there, but you can't see it. It's hidden. So the heart is like the element of Gupta. It has so many things. But in the essence of the heart's existence is Prema Pumartha Mahan, love for Krishna. And if we follow this process seriously and chant, and it's a very joyful process, it's not arduous. There may be some difficulties, some reverses, some situations that seem to be, what we say, pushing us towards material life. But if we work with that and depend on Krishna and take shelter of Krishna and take shelter of the instructions of the spiritual master, we can overcome all of these disturbances. It's like when you have to cross the ocean, you get a good boat and you get a captain who is qualified to get you across. So the good boat is bhakti, and the qualified captain is the spiritual master. But even if you have these 2 things, if you don't pull up the anchor, the boat doesn't move. Prabhupada tells the story of the wedding party. There was a wedding party. This was in the land of Braj Bhumi, or Punya Bhumi. And they all came to get into this boat and cross this lake. And then on the other side, they were going to have their wedding program the next day. So they got there late at night. They all went to sleep. And while they were sleeping, the boatsmen, the persons who were hired, they were rowing the boat. But when they all woke up in the next morning, they found that they were in the same place that they were the night before when they went to sleep. Then they realized the anchor didn't get pulled up. So that anchor is sense gratification, or a desire to enjoy in this material world. It's a big anchor. And we have to lift up that anchor and then row the boat. Otherwise, if the anchor's down and the boat, you're rowing the boat's not going to move. So that anchor is a desire to somehow or other find happiness through material activities. We should give up this idea because it's a futile idea. There's no happiness in material life because this material world is designed by the Supreme Lord to frustrate any attempts to enjoy in this material world. And if there is some enjoyment, it's temporary and quite puny compared to the enjoyment that the soul desires, and which is its natural constitutional position. The soul desires unlimited happiness because that is its nature. And so the process is very nice. Chanting, dancing, taking prasadam, reading philosophical books, spending time with devotees who do the same thing, worshiping the Lord in his deity form. So many wonderful activities, all done by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's special mercy. He's Karuna avatar. He's come in this age to make that same process very easy, which was given by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna made it a little bit, he gave us all the knowledge, and then he said, now you got to surrender. Mahaprabhu doesn't talk about surrender. He talks about performing the activities which lead to purification of the heart, which are, as we mentioned, hearing about, worshiping, chanting, remembering, serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we have so many other responsibilities, but really, as time goes on, we should be reducing our material responsibilities and increasing our spiritual activities. If we still stay very much connected with the material world in so many different ways, we will not be able to taste the happiness of this Krishna consciousness movement, which is available very easily through a determined effort in the execution of devotional service. Determination is like there was one devotee. He was in New Vrindavan. Prabhupada was there, and it was a little outdoor darshan with Prabhupada. This was back in the 1970s, the early part of the 70s. I think it was around 71, 72. And so the devotee said to Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada was talking about determination, how important determination is, and how one becomes successful when one applies determination in the activities towards the prescribed goal. So then that devotee said to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, what happens if you don't have determination? And Prabhupada said, then you're an animal. That's how he answered. Because an animal cannot be determined. An animal may all of a sudden bark. The dogs will bark, and then if you hold a stick, the dog will run in the other direction. Or if a squirrel is running along and he hears a twig breaking, he'll run the other way. So yeah, the noise of the material energy causes us to become less determined in our So determination is a feature of the will. And when one puts their mind to something and practices it accordingly, then one can find what we say success in their activities. So humans can be determined, animals cannot be. So determination actually is the difference between success and failure in Krishna consciousness. Those who have determination will succeed. Those who don't will not succeed. So even though if you take up the process, Rupa Goswami mentions Utsahan Nishchaya. Nishchaya means determination. So every day we have to be determined to hear and chant. We wake up in the morning, we think, all right, I got 16 rounds to go. It's the best part of my day. This is the time I get to connect with Krishna in a very direct way through the holy name. We shouldn't think, oh, I got 16 rounds. It's going to take me so long. I got things to do. Maybe I'll chant later, or I'll chant a little bit now and chant a little bit later, maybe. And so that kind of attitude won't work in Krishna consciousness. We should see this process as a great gift given by Krishna through his representatives, the spiritual master. And we see it that way, and we realize how rare and how special it is. Then we become more eager and enthusiastic, and whatever little difficulties we may have because of the restless mind or because of situations that may arise, these things become so insignificant. We can somehow overshadow them simply by our determined effort to continue in our Krishna consciousness. This becomes easy then. Okay, can stop here.
Thank you so much, Maharaj, for explaining the importance of submission and service with sincerity and dedication. Thank you. Devotees, if you have any comments, yes, Silvesh Prabhu, please go ahead. Devotees, it would be nice to keep your cameras on if you can. And if you can't speak, then please type it in the chat and I'll read it for you. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj, you mentioned that there can be reversals in this process of Krishna consciousness and that we should depend on Krishna at those times. Can you speak a bit more about how we can do that, how we can depend on Krishna?
Krishna saved me. Call out to Krishna. That's all. I'm trying to serve you. I'm finding myself in this situation. Please give me your mercy. Give me the intelligence how to continue on my devotional service despite all of these difficulties. Krishna's there in your heart. He's the closest person to you. He's Antarami. He's the super soul. There's no one closer to you than God. Not even the person who is sitting on top of you. He's not as close as God is to you. He's the closest person. Talk to him. He's there in the heart. He hears. He's seeing everything, but he's also waiting for us to turn to him. So we don't always turn to him when things are, going right. We turn to him all the time, going wrong or going right. We are grateful for his mercy when he helps us. We're at the same time we call out for his mercy when we're struggling to continue on in our spiritual practice. He's there. And he is the person he'll give you the answer, the knowledge you need, how you could proceed. The question is, are you perceptive enough to understand it? And that requires to be a little bit calm. When the tidal wave comes, don't let your boat, capsize. Stay on the boat and call out to Krishna. We don't call the Krishna to relieve the situation. We call Krishna to give us the mercy we need, how to get through this situation. Of course, he can relieve it too. But the difficulties that come, sometimes he allows them to come so we can become stronger in our spiritual practice by facing them and overcoming them. There's a nice poem. Oh, I forget. It says, oh, I wish I can think where that poem is. Oh, it's so nice. I have it written down somewhere. I think I might know where it is. Yeah. It's written by a secular lady, but she's right on when it talks about how one succeeds in life and how one actually has to proceed in order to succeed in life. It's a general principle that applies in Krishna consciousness also. Let me think, where is that poem? Oh boy. I can't remember where it is. Maybe tomorrow I'll bring it up. I'd have to do some searching now, and it might take too long to find it. So
maybe you can get it posted on the WhatsApp group.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really, I mean, it's right to the point. Sometimes the messages you need come right from people in the material world. They're the same principles that we live by and succeed by, but they also apply the same thing in their life, in their material way. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let me see. Let me just go to one place in my repertoire here. I might be able to find it right away. It's so powerful. I mean, he gives you such clarity. Let's see. Mm-hmm. Found something else. Mm-hmm. Let me see. You might be able to come across it. Here, I'll read something else. Prayer reaches Krishna only when we surrender. Surrender means to be desperate. When we realize clearly our helpless position in this dangerous material world, we will pray sincerely and surrender absolutely to Sri Krishna. There are many types of prayers from the selfish Christian variety. Give us our daily bread, like that. Or put the bundle back on my head, those are prayers. It's like Prabhupada talks about that prayer, put the bundle back on my head. An old lady, she's walking along, she's carrying a big load, and it's a heavy load, and she drops it. And then she calls, oh God, help me, help me, help me. And then God comes to her and says, yes, what do you want? She says, can you pick up the bundle and put it back? And then God gets disgusted and leaves. Instead of being relieved from her bundle, you want the bundle put back. Yeah, so that material life is like that. My dear Lord, I'm not successful on this material thing, so please give me the reason how I can be successful. Put the bundle back in my head so I can carry it some more. something like that. Okay, then. So we don't want to ask Krishna to put the bundle back on our head again. That's not the prayer. Prayer is to get relief from the burden.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah, I'll find that other prayer. It's so nice. I think I have it written on a piece of paper somewhere.
Thank
Guru
you,
Maharaj,
Krishna.
is it that prayer by Mother Teresa? Do it anyway?
No, this is another one.
Oh,
I can't remember the. It's some poet. She's a poet, actually. Can't remember her name. I think I know where it is, but I don't want to go running around trying to search for it. So,
and what is the theme of that poem, Guru Maharaj?
the theme is the heroes are the ones that are in the front line, not the people who sit in the back. You can't call yourself successful unless you fight. Fighting is the way to achieve success in all forms of achievements. Anything good is worth fighting for. And those who take up the fight, and then if they're victorious, they are considered to be the heroes, not the ones who sit in the back and don't do anything. So Maya will impose, obstacles. And that's just the way it is. You can't get away from that. It's there in all forms of life, material, spiritual, and in between. Life is an obstacle to live in this world. To have a material body means to suffer. Sometimes our body is good and we forget all about our suffering. And then when we experience suffering, then we get so much encased in that suffering, we just think, oh my God, this is really miserable. But when everything is all right, at least temporarily, we think, oh, I'm okay. Until the next calamity hits you.
Thanks, Maharaj. Thanks, Kalpesh Prabhu. Manisha Mataji, you have a question?
Anisha, Haribol.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Yeah, you remember this?
Yeah, Maharaj, thank you so much, Maharaj. We picked it.
Yeah, thank you. It's so nice. I read it the other day. I was almost crying. It was so nice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. You like it. Maharaj, my question is that what mood should we have at the time of service?
The mood should be, how can I do this service in the best possible way that I can offer it to Krishna, to the spiritual master, to the devotees? When you do your service, you should try to think how I can do it so nicely, with such attention, with care, not just trying to get through it so I can do something next. No, it should be done with attention, with care, with expertise, as much as you can bring. And ultimately, with devotion. When we put quality in our service, it's an indication of devotion also. We meant to make it as nice as possible. Whatever you do it in the best possible way. Even if it's sweeping the floor or taking out the garbage, whatever, do it in the best possible way.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Maharaj, what is mechanical service you mentioned?
What, say again?
What is mechanical service?
Mindless service. You're not even, your mind is somewhere else and you're just going through the motions.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Service
Yes,
means, service means three things: body, mind, and words. When all three are there engaged in devotional service, that is called full devotional service. If your body's engaged and your mind somewhere else, then you're not fully fully there in the service. It's like some people they don't turn on their cameras during this thing because they're washing clothes or doing yoga or 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 cooking lunch or breakfast or something, taking care of the kids. But they got the camera on, but they won't turn on, and they got they're plugged in, but they're not really there, So at least they're half there anyway. That's better than they might get something out of it. If everybody turns on their cameras, you'll see a lot of things you'll be surprised. But people won't turn on their cameras because they don't want you to see that they're doing something else at the same time. I know for a fact, I'm not just speculating. But if you're attentive and you listen, you get so much more than if you're just half hearing and half somewhere else, Yes. So
Thanks.
that's mechanical.
thank you so much, Maharaj.
Thanks, Manisha Mataji. Amrita Mataji. Sorry, Shudev Mataji, I'll come back to you. Amrita, yeah.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. And sorry, Guru Maharaj, I'm right here in front of the mobile, but just the camera is not working. So, my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. My question is, when we are, how to frame it? Okay. We ask in prayers, to God. Okay, I am in some suffering. Please relieve me from there, or the prayers. But sometimes theoretically understanding the scriptures and then asking in prayers, and practically being capable of taking whatever God gives us, both are very different things. So sometimes devotees pray, okay, mechanically, that, but they're not prepared, they're not mature enough that for that surrender. So what is the missing factor there?
They're praying, but they're not ready for what will happen.
Yes, for whatever God gives us.
Then they think they know better. So what's the use of your prayer? Prayer means to completely submit yourself to the mercy of the Lord.
Right.
Yeah. Why pray if you don't really want the answer? Or you have your own answer then, or you're looking for God to validate your own answer. He won't do that. He's not your security guard. He's not your gardener. He's not your immigration officer. He is the object of your devotion. That's all.
So then when Guru Maharaj, we are praying, the prayers are just simply rejected because you are not prepared, or you're still under the arena of Maya.
God knows your motivation, and not only what you say. He knows what is your actual motivation behind what you do or how you pray. He sees that more than he sees the words you speak. He knows your heart. He knows you better than you know yourself. You can't hide anything from him. Don't ever try. But he's very kind at the same time. He's not judgmental, but if you're speaking one thing and you want something else, then what do you expect from him? So if you're offering a prayer, then it should be sincere. How to pray sincerely. Like I gave that example of that lady. She's an old lady walking with a burden. The burden falls. She calls out to God for help. And God comes and he says, "What do you want? Please put the burden on my back again." He can relieve the burden completely from her, but she's not asking that. So we call to God in prayer, but we simply want him to fix our material problems. That's all. That's not what he does. Just like Prabhupada taught us, when Prabhupada got sick in 1974, he was quite sick. He looked like he was going to leave the body. The devotees were praying to Krishna. But Prabhupada understood the devotees were praying in the wrong way, so he taught the devotees how to pray. He said, "You pray like this: My dear Lord Krishna, please cure my spiritual master if you so desire." So if you so desire means you leave it up to Krishna. If you're asking something material from Krishna, then you say, "My dear Lord, if you desire it." And you leave it up to him. It's not that you make your petition and you expect him to fulfill it. That's not prayer. That's business. The prayer is the currency, and the merchandise is the exchange for the currency. That's business. That's not prayer. Prayer means, "My dear Lord, I'm suffering in this material world. Please help me remember you." Not that it's not that I want you to relieve my suffering. I simply want you to give me your mercy so I can remember you through all of these difficulties. Then by remembering Krishna, all the difficulties are gone.
Yes, Guru. Thank you. I think that really answered that. Hare
Yeah,
Krishna.
thank you.
Thanks, Amrita Mataji. Sridevi Mataji, please go ahead.
Thank you. Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Prabhupada. All glories to your holiness. Thank you for yet another powerful class. Guru Maharaj, when you were saying about sincerity, how sincerely we must be in any small thing we do, I was remembering my late mother. She was such a stickler for doing everything with sincerity. She was very strict, very, very strict with us. I remember sewing up a piece of garment, and she told me, this is all wrong, rip it out and do it again. And I was like, it's okay, it's done. She said, no, it's not done right, do it again. So for every little thing, I was, made to do things till she was satisfied. She was a perfectionist. And I used to be so irritated with her. 30 years later, when I was in the USA and my supervisor was appreciating something I had done, she said, you have done such a good job. I can see how much attention you have put to this. I said, well, that's thanks to my mother. She made me do everything until it was done perfectly. She's like, oh, that's where you got your work ethic from. And then I realized that her strictness was actually beneficial for me. She insisted that nothing less than my best, whatever it may be, whether it's small, big, anything. So I didn't like it growing up, but I realized the value 30 years later.
We can do that with our children. We can do that with our disciples. We can do that with our students, but we can't do that with people in general.
Thank you for reminding me so that I learn to be strict with myself and lenient with others.
Because that person is your superior. When you're not in the role, when you're working with other people, you can't ask them to be perfectionists and then be intolerant if they're not. That's not, only if you're in a role of they've accepted you as the person that they will follow completely. So a mother, a father with children, the disciples with the spiritual master, the students with the teachers. These are the three categories that simply have the what we say, the right to push their the persons that are under them to perfection. You can't do that with other people. There's a story, I could read it, it's in a book I have, about one lady. She was a perfectionist with everybody. And when she would give people things to do, or when people would do things, she said, it's so easy, why can't you do it? And she was always criticizing them for falling short of her standards. And this went on for some time. And then at one time she got sick and she couldn't do anything. And then the message came, yes, now where is all your perfection you're talking about? Now everybody else should be perfect. Now you can't even do the smallest things. So we shouldn't be like that with other people. We should tolerate their shortcomings and work with them. But when it comes to authorities that are relegated or enlisted, then we expect the authorities to push us so we can reach certain levels of perfection. Working under them, that's different.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Thank
So
you for that lesson.
it applies to your mother and you. It does apply in that sense. Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, Devi Mataji. Krishna Kaviraj Prabhu, please go ahead.
Thank you. Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisance. All glory to the Srila Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, the law of attraction that appears to be implied in the Vedic teachings, but is there any truth in it, or is there any reference to it in our scriptures?
Could you, I missed one or two words at the beginning.
The law of attraction.
The law of attraction, yes, okay.
Yes, it appears to be implied in our teachings, but I don't know if that's just what we see, or if there's actually any truth or any reference to it.
Oh, well, I don't know if there's a law of attraction. There's people who get attracted to the most abominable things. If you get attracted to a pig is attracted to eating stool. If you give a pig halava and stool side by side, he won't eat the halava, he'll eat the stool because he's attracted to that because he's a pig. That's why. So in humans, we also see that there's people who will to be attracted to the most abominable and disgusting things that a person who is in higher consciousness will think, my God, how can they be attracted to that? So I don't know what the law of attraction is. The law of attraction is that people will be attracted to anything that seemingly satisfies their desire for sense gratification.
Very much. I mean that it's in terms of if we meditate or focus or think about a certain thing, then we attract that. So it feels like it's implied in that if we're continually meditating, thinking about Krishna, then we'll attain Krishna. Or if we continue meditating about material desires or Maya, then we'll attract that.
The material attractions are artificial. Attraction to Krishna is natural. Krishna is all attractive. That's what the name Krishna means. He's all attractive.
Okay, so by that, do I conclude that the law of attraction is just a materialistic theory?
Yeah, some theory that they came up with.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Maharaj.
The soul is attracted to Krishna. That's real, and that can never be altered in any way. It's always there. The iron filings are attracted to the magnet, but if there's rust on the iron filings, the attraction doesn't work. So the rust is our material coverings, but we're naturally attracted to Krishna.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. It's just that sometimes I hear reference to that by devotees, and I was trying to find it in the Veda Basin, but I couldn't find it, so I had to ask you.
Okay. I don't know if there's any standard for the law of attraction. I don't know even what the law of attraction is. You can get attracted to anything. And you can get averse to anything too. There are people who are averse to the most wonderful things and attracted to the most abominable things. So the law of attraction is the consciousness that a person culminates through associating with the different levels of the material energy. The more you associate with the material energy in the mode of ignorance, then you're attracted to activities and people in the mode of ignorance. If you're attracted and then you associate with and cultivate the mode of passion, it works in the same way. If you cultivate your attraction for Krishna, that's natural, and that will develop exponentially or naturally, because that's real.
Thanks, Maharaj. Thanks, Krishna Prabhu, Krishna Kaviraj Prabhu. Maharaj, there's a question from Sakshi Mataji in the chat. I'll read it for you. Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory Srila Prabhupada. And the question is, we pray to Krishna for the right intelligence to withstand with suffering. how do we perceive that the idea we receive is directed by Krishna?
We pray to Krishna when we're in a position of suffering, and then we get some intelligence, some answer comes through the intelligence. How do we know it's Krishna? If you align it with Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, in other words, if it's in line with the teachings of the Guru, with the statements of the Shastras, and with the lives and teachings of the previous acharyas, then you can say it has some value. But sometimes you just have to use your intelligence to understand things. Not everybody's going to be there for you at every moment to help you decide. Just like Prabhupada was asked, Prabhupada talked about what is a detail and what is a principle. There is two things. There's details and principles in Krishna consciousness. So what is a principle? What is a detail? So the question came, how can you tell which is a principle and which is a detail? And Prabhupada answered, that requires some intelligence. Because a detail can look like a principle and vice versa. But there's standard principles, like standard principle is chant 16 rounds. Standard principle is follow the 4 regulative principles. Standard principle is don't talk nonsense. These are things that, yeah. So details means that, okay, the principle is eat prasadam. And the detail is what kind of prasadam should I eat? That's the detail. Detail principle is do service, and the detail is what particular service am I suited for or should do. So that's the detail. So to know the difference between them requires some intelligence. So.
Thanks, Maharaj. Sakshi Mataji, I hope that answers your question. Yeah, thank you, Maharaj, the same. Any other questions from anyone? Otherwise, we can close the call. No. Okay. Just a reminder for everyone that tomorrow is Bhakti Sangha class, which Guru Maharaj will be giving at 12:20 p.m. UK time. And the verse will be Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, 6th chapter, and verse number 24. 7, 6, 24.
34?
24.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj, for your time and association. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
So
Thank you.
It's so
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare
Sopesh.
Krishna.
Hey, Sopesh. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Hare Krishna.
You can get that.
Sorry, Maharaj is trying to say something.
You can get that medicine in the UK. You don't have to import it from India.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, it's homeopathic medicine. Just look for a homeopathic outlet.
Good. Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah, it's available in the UK.
Thank you very much for today's class. Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare
Guru.
Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, I have mailed you the 2 pictures